For years, Gold Rush has sold viewers the same promise. A group of determined miners risking everything for one massive payday. Dirt, machines, breakdowns, arguments, and the constant pressure of time. But what the show never really explains is how much of what you're watching is carefully protected. And recently, a few small details slipped out that completely changed how fans see the series. Because behind the gold totals and dramatic music, there's a layer of the story that Discovery never wanted to be the focus. Most viewers assume Gold Rush is a simple documentary. Cameras follow miners, miners dig, and whatever happens is what happens. But that version of the show only tells part of the truth. What the series never explains is how controlled the environment actually is. Not staged in the sense of fake gold or scripted lines, but controlled in terms of what can be shown, what can't, and what has to stay vague. Miners don't just show up, turn on machines, and hope for the best. There are rules about filming hours, safety protocols that go beyond normal mining regulations, and entire situations that cameras are instructed to avoid unless approved. That's why some breakdowns feel dramatic while others barely get mentioned. It's not about excitement, it's about what fits the story, and that leads to the first big secret. Not every failure you see is the real failure. One of the least discussed parts of Gold Rush is the contract structure. Cast members are paid per episode, not per ounce of gold. That alone changes everything. Even during seasons where a miner loses money, they're still earning income from the show itself. That doesn't mean they're getting rich from TV, but it explains why some crews return year after year despite brutal seasons that would normally bankrupt a real-world operation. Some miners have quietly admitted that without the show, they would have shut down long ago. The gold isn't always enough, the exposure is, but that's only the surface. What really shocked fans was learning how much financial help exists off camera. Equipment sponsorships, discounted leases, fuel deals, and repair agreements that never get mentioned on screen. Viewers see desperation. Behind the scenes, there's often a safety net keeping things barely afloat, and then there's the stuff that never airs. Gold mining is dangerous. Everyone knows that. But Gold Rush presents danger in controlled doses. Broken machinery, icy roads, tense moments. What rarely makes it into episodes are the near misses that are too serious. The kind of accidents that would force uncomfortable questions about safety, liability, and responsibility. Former crew members have hinted that certain incidents were immediately shut down from filming, not because they weren't dramatic, but because they were too real, too messy, too risky for the network. That's also where a lot of cast tension comes from. On camera, arguments are usually about deadlines, money, or mistakes. Off camera, conflicts can be far deeper. Long hours, exhaustion, pressure from producers, and the constant awareness of being watched creates resentment fast. Some cast members didn't just move on from the show, they walked away after disputes viewers never heard about. Fans started noticing patterns. Someone gets a strong storyline one season, then barely appears the next. Another miner suddenly disappears with a vague explanation about personal reasons. Those weren't always mutual decisions. And then came the moment that really exposed everything. During interviews and podcasts, a few cast members casually mentioned things they clearly weren't supposed to emphasize. Comments about reshooting scenes, about being asked to explain things again for clarity, about how gold totals are real, but the journey to them isn't always shown in order. Nothing illegal. Nothing fake, but enough to break the illusion that Gold Rush is simply raw reality. Once fans started connecting the dots, it changed how episodes were watched. Breakdowns felt less random. Conflicts felt more timed. Cliffhangers suddenly made sense. The show wasn't lying, it was shaping. And here's the real twist. Knowing all of this hasn't hurt Gold Rush at all. In fact, it might be why the show has survived so long. Gold Rush works because it blends real struggle with controlled storytelling. The danger is real. The work is brutal. The gold is real. But the way it's presented is designed to keep viewers hooked season after season without crossing lines that would shut production down. That secret slipping out didn't ruin the show. It revealed why it still dominates the genre. So the next time you watch a dramatic breakdown or a last-minute gold weigh-in, remember this: you're seeing a real story, just not the entire one. And sometimes, what stays hidden is exactly what keeps Gold Rush alive. YouTube video description: Gold Rush looks real, raw, and unpredictable. But there's more happening behind the scenes than viewers realize. Over the years, small details have slipped out that reveal how the show really works, what never makes it on air, and why some miners keep coming back despite brutal seasons. In this video, we break down the hidden rules, quiet deals, unseen dangers, and off-camera tension that Gold Rush never fully explains. Once you see it, you'll never watch the show the same way again. What makes this even more complicated is the way time is manipulated. Gold Rush is filmed over months, but viewers experience it in carefully compressed episodes. A breakdown that looks like it lasted one afternoon might have actually stalled an operation for weeks. Meanwhile, stretches of boring but productive mining are often skipped entirely. That distortion quietly changes how audiences judge the miners. Some are made to look reckless, others unlucky, when in reality they're dealing with delays no TV format could ever fully show. And this time compression affects decisions too. Miners have talked about being pushed to take risks they normally wouldn't. Not because producers tell them what to do, but because the pressure of good TV becomes unavoidable. When a deadline looms and cameras are rolling, there's an unspoken expectation to keep things moving, even when caution would say otherwise. That tension doesn't come from scripts, it comes from knowing millions are watching. Another thing the show rarely addresses is how physically and mentally worn down these crews become. Gold Rush often highlights tempers flaring, but it doesn't fully explain why. Sleep deprivation, constant noise, financial stress, and isolation pile up fast. Some miners have admitted that by mid-season they're barely functioning. Small mistakes turn into massive problems, not because of incompetence, but exhaustion. That context rarely makes it on screen. Then there's the turnover problem. Viewers might think cast changes happen naturally, but several former crew members have hinted at burnout being the real reason. Not everyone who leaves wants to make a public exit. Some just want their lives back. Long filming schedules, public scrutiny, and the pressure of becoming a recognizable face takes a toll. Once you're part of Gold Rush, you're not just mining gold, you're managing an image, and that image matters more than most people realize. Once a miner becomes popular, expectations follow. Fans expect bold moves, dramatic comebacks, and constant momentum. Playing it safe doesn't make great television. That's why some miners lean into bigger risks as seasons go on. Not because it's smarter, but because it's expected. The audience doesn't just watch the story, it shapes it. What really shook longtime fans was realizing how often miners are aware of this dynamic. Some have openly said they know which moments will make the cut and which won't. That awareness subtly changes behavior. It's not acting, but it's not pure instinct either. It's decision-making under a spotlight. Another hidden layer is how success is framed. Gold totals are real, but they don't tell the full story. Expenses, debts, and long-term sustainability are rarely broken down. A season-ending victory might look massive on TV, but off-camera, that gold could already be spoken for, paying back loans, covering repairs, or settling deals viewers never hear about. Winning a season doesn't always mean winning financially, and yet the show keeps pulling people in. That's because Gold Rush taps into something deeper than money. It sells perseverance. The idea that hard work can still pay off, even in a brutal world. Even when viewers learn about the editing, the contracts, and the unseen pressures, the core struggle remains real. Dirt is still moved, machines still break, people still push themselves past comfort. In a strange way, knowing the secrets makes the show more interesting, not less. You start noticing the cracks, the moments where frustration feels too raw to be planned, the silence after a bad weigh-in, the relief that can't be faked when gold finally shows up. Those moments hit harder once you understand what it took to get there. And maybe that's the biggest truth Gold Rush never outright says. The show isn't about gold. It's about endurance. About people choosing to stay in a punishing environment longer than most would. Cameras or not, that choice is real. The secrets don't erase the struggle, they explain it. So when another season promises higher stakes and bigger risks, remember this. You're watching more than a mining operation. You're watching people balancing reality, reputation, and survival, all at once. And that balance is far more fragile than the show ever lets on.